Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Tider Insider TV, our final edition of 2011.
Wow.
My, how time flies when you're having a good time.
Sure does.
Or at least acting
Man,
like you're having a good time.
unbelievable.
Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm Gary Harris. Our program is always brought to you by Buffalo Rock Bottling Company. Bottlers of fine Pepsi products. Of course, that all begins with ice-cold Pepsi. Did you have a big Christmas, buddy?
I did.
Good,
How about
good.
you?
I had a good Christmas.
Good,
Had a good Christmas.
good.
Santa Claus came to see me, brought me some really good stuff, and got a few days off, which was nice.
Yeah.
Would have taken a few more if I could have, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're ready to get back
Hey,
on.
also talking about this being the final show of 2011. Next week, we'll be going down to New Orleans, so I think we'll be coming to you on tape next week. And then the week after that, well, you got one more show as a single man.
Yeah.
That's right. You'll be a married man come early January.
That's right.
And then you're going to honeymoon in New Orleans.
That's right.
For the national championship. All right. Speaking of that, Roddy, enough chit chat here. But it is Christmas, so we're just kind of catching up with each other and catching up with you. Last week, Alabama practiced every day, Monday through Friday. They took off Saturday, Sunday, yesterday, and today. They get back out on the practice field tomorrow. But you were at practice every day that the media was allowed. We were over there with our cameras. We're watching some footage. Just your thoughts on that first week. I know that they were, working a lot on themselves, working some young guys, but still with an eye toward the national championship game coming up. How did you think that first week went?
Well, the first thing that jumped out at me, Gary, is just looking at them, how good of shape they appeared to be in. Nick Saban said after the Auburn game they were starting a special 3-week strength and conditioning program, to keep the guys in shape because it was such a long layoff. And, it really caught my attention how good of shape everyone was in and had stayed in. And some of the guys actually looked even in better shape than they did towards the end of the season.
A lot's been made of the layoff. Alabama didn't play in the SEC championship game. By the time they play LSU on the 9th, it will have been 44 days since they last played a game against, of course, Auburn at Jordan-Hare Stadium in the Iron Bowl. Not nearly as long 2 years ago when they played in the SEC championship game against Florida. I think it was maybe 36 days between games. And then they played Texas for the national championship. What do you think about the layoff?
Well, again, I think in some ways it's pretty good because it's allowing some of the guys, Barrett Jones, a little extra time to get healthy. Some of the other guys that had struggled throughout the end of the season. For instance, Eddie Lacy, who had limped around on that turf toe for quite a bit, and he's still got a little ways to go, but it just gives them a little extra time to get ready. And LSU would have, 37 days off?
Right,
so it's not that significant of a difference.
I know it was in Pasadena, California, so in terms of logistics, it was a lot longer trip 2 years ago. But the fact that Alabama was just in this situation 2 years ago. Now, I know it's been just 4 years ago for LSU, but still, most of those players that were on that team are gone. A lot of these players on this Alabama squad just went through this a couple of years ago. They're familiar with the process. Obviously, the coaching staff is. That's got to be an advantage. Well,
yeah, I think, but you look defensively, and there were some guys there. Obviously, Upshaw, some of your leaders. Barron was there. Dante Hightower was injured. So you do have some guys with that experience on the offensive side. Certainly Barrett Jones and Trent Richardson, bring that experience. And, but the one thing you have to remember is both coaching staffs have been there. They've done that. They know how to prepare teams for this kind of game. So, I think it's probably fairly even in that regard.
I know things will begin to amp up tomorrow, and then, of course, next Wednesday the Tide will leave for New Orleans. So this past week, again, they worked on a lot of different things. Game preparation will really begin in earnest this week. But still, Coach Saban met with the media a couple times last week. I thought he seemed incredibly relaxed. Was that your take?
Yeah. Then they said that before the first game, and I think that he wants his team to relax. But, he seemed really pleased, Gary, with what he saw in the first week. And I think that's the most significant thing that you take from his comments was he was really pleased with his team in terms of their conditioning and working on fundamentals. That was one thing that he really wanted to accomplish, last week was get his team, back fundamentally sound.
Going forward, as I said, Alabama practices tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, and New Year's Eve. They take off Sunday and Monday. They'll practice Tuesday afternoon, then Wednesday morning here in Tuscaloosa. Then Wednesday, following practice, they depart for New Orleans, and it'll be on. Of course, the game is still 13 days away, but it's getting closer. Of course, WVUA will be there. We'll have a huge crew. All of next week, and, of course, leading right up to the game, we'll have you covered. Well, still to come on TITV, we'll look back to November 5th when the Tide dropped that 9-6 overtime heartbreaker to the Tigers and talk about what the Tide needs to do to avoid the same fate on January 9th. And, of course, we'll be getting to your phone calls and answering your emails. The phone number, if you want to give us a ring, 205-348-9882. That's 348-WVUA. Or you can email us at TITV@WVUATV.com. The game's getting close. I know there's a lot on your mind. Best way to get through is to go ahead and call in now and just hold until we begin to take those phone calls. But again, when we come back, we are going to talk Bama LSU. What did the Tide learn from that loss? Tider Insider TV brought to you by Buffalo Rock, proud bottlers of Pepsi-Cola. We'll be right back. Welcome back to TITV. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Still to come, your phone calls and emails. We're going to talk about Alabama and LSU the first time around. Real quickly, though, Rodney, let's mention basketball. The Tide got back on track last week in Birmingham with a big win over Oklahoma State over at the BJCC. That was without JaMychal Green, dinged up shoulder. Hope he'll play on Thursday night. Not sure what his status is. Coach Grant has not met with the media yet this week, but Alabama hosts Jacksonville on Thursday night at Coleman Coliseum. A great opportunity to go out and check out the Tide as they're just right around the corner from SEC play. They've got Jacksonville, then a game at Georgia Tech. Then it's into the SEC portion of the schedule. All right, now, Rodney, let's talk about the Alabama and LSU, the first go-round. It was billed by many as the college football game of the century, and it didn't have a lot of points, but it had a lot of drama. Alabama falls in overtime, 9-6. First question, what did the Tide learn in that game that should help them the second time around?
Man, I was actually watching the second half today just by chance, Gary, and I noticed that in the first half, Alabama had drives of 43, 62, and 79 yards. Think about that.
I have.
Think about that.
I have thought about it.
And didn't come away with but 3 points in the half. And, you know, I watched the second half. LSU didn't really move the ball very much. And you think about the interception that A.J. McCarron threw that set up their second field goal that tied it at 6. You know, they had a first down at the 15-yard line. They only managed a couple of yards. Then they had to settle for that field goal. Alabama's defense played extremely well. I think that's an understatement. And, you know, again, it's just a matter of Alabama converting on opportunities, which they did not do in the first game. But, you know, just watching it, as I watched it today, I thought Alabama played extremely well.
You know, Ronnie, people ask me that question all the time, as I'm sure they do you. What does Alabama need to do to win against LSU the second time? And I've told you this before. You know, my answer is score more points.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to be cute. I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with how Alabama played. You kind of pointed it out. I don't want to say they dominated the game. They controlled the game. The only time LSU led was in overtime. Again, I've said this before, give LSU a lot of credit for finding a way to win the game. But defensively, you can't play much better than Alabama played. That's really the only big play in the game they gave up.
Yeah, that was a busted coverage there.
To Russell Shepard right before halftime led to a field goal. But defensively, they dominated the game. Offensively, as you said, they moved the football. They moved the football consistently, particularly in the first half. You know, just take advantage of those opportunities. If Alabama, and they didn't, here's another huge play in the game, obviously, when Williams gets the ball taken away from him here. But if Alabama converts its opportunities, Ronnie, well, they probably win 21-6, 24-6,
well,
like that.
you know, how about Mark Barron having the interception returned down to the 3-yard line?
Chapman, the
and I mean, so that certainly set Alabama back. They didn't convert there. You remember at the beginning of the second half, Alabama held LSU. Wing had a 22-yard punt. I mean, how many times are you going to see Brad Wing shank one for 22 yards? Set Alabama up at their own 48 and couldn't convert there. So, I mean, you know, just opportunities. Again, LSU's a really good team, but, you know, Alabama did not take advantage of opportunities. I do think, Gary, this time there's at least the winning team is going to score some points.
It sounds like we're pretty much in agreement, though, that there was nothing wrong with Alabama's game plan. They were ready to play. Obviously, they missed some field goals. You can't put that all on the kickers, as Saban said. They had opportunities there to either get much shorter field goals or get touchdowns, and they went backwards in a lot of those cases. But really, they just need to convert on opportunities, and they're going to have an opportunity to win the game, as they did on November 5th, really.
Mm-hmm. And you know, you can't, you look at LSU, look at how opportunistic they are.
Yep.
I mean, you know, you look at that Georgia game, you know, they had no first downs in the first half. I mean, that's incredible. But they had the big punt return by Matthew. They had the fumble at the beginning of the second half that set up another touchdown. So, I mean, they're just an opportunistic team. You cannot give them anything. If you don't give them anything and you take advantage of your opportunities, then Alabama should be in good shape.
You can't sleep on LSU.
Nope.
I mean, that's the thing about them. They did not, if you're looking at this from LSU perspective, and we haven't been, we've been looking at it from the Bama perspective, you know what they're saying? They're saying, hey, we didn't play well, and we won the game. We're going to play a lot better. But that's the beauty of their football team, is they can beat you so many different ways. With wing, the punter, their place kicker solid, their defense is opportunistic. They can hurt you in the return game with the Honey Badger. I mean, they're thinking they're going to play better too, but I think Alabama will as well. That's why it's going to be an interesting game, even though they've already played once. I'm like you. I don't think it'll be anything like the first game.
Well, the thing is, you look at the last two Alabama-LSU games. You look at the one last year in 2010. You look at this one. I mean, LSU has made those 3 or 4 plays that it takes to win a game like this, and Alabama hasn't, Gary. And again, is Alabama going to make those plays this time around? I think that's a big question. And I tell you this, in all honesty, LSU is a much more confident football team heading into this game. I think they've gained a lot of confidence since that win over Alabama.
We won't make our prediction until next week, so we won't make a prediction tonight, although your fiancée, Tracy Newberry, is sitting over there. I think we'll have to get her prediction before the end of the show tonight. So we'll have that to look forward to. Well, coming up, we're going to get to some phone calls and emails. You need to give us a ring at 205-348-9882. That's 348-WVUA, or you can email us, TITV@WVUATV.com. We want to hear from you. Find out what's on your mind next when Tider Insider TV continues, the final program of 2011. We'll be back right after this. And welcome back to Tider Insider Television on a Tuesday night, the final Tuesday of 2011, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm Gary Harris. Again, Rodney, TiderInsider.com, only $48 a year. Keep you up to date on everything that's going on with Alabama.
Yeah, and hey, don't forget about our radio show tomorrow night. What is it, 105.9 FM?
Yeah, in Tuscaloosa.
Here in Tuscaloosa.
Available on stations all over the state beginning at 6 p.m.
Yep, 977thezone.com. If you want to listen to on the internet, we'll talk extensively about recruiting.
Yeah, but you can get us on the radio show tomorrow night. You can get him anytime at TiderInsider.com. All right, let's go to the phones tonight. First up, Marquise in Tuscaloosa. Marquise, welcome in to TITV.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. You're our first caller. Yeah, man. Go ahead.
Yes, I was just, Bama, they just need to execute and play like they've been playing. And the way they played against Auburn, I like that because they switched it up a little bit. And a lot of people know our game plan that we're going to run it. I mean, I ain't saying it's bad to run it or whatever, but we just need to switch it up just a little bit and play like Bama play. And they need to go out there and just execute and lead. And that old game is old. I mean, people need to quit talking about that game. That game, it really doesn't even matter no more because it's a whole nother ball game, and this going to be the game that we're going to do it on.
All right, Marquise, I agree with you. Execution's the key, for both teams. When you got two great teams like this, it's probably going to be decided on who executes what they want to do the best.
And I agree with him from the standpoint of talking about the first game. I mean, I know as a defensive struggle, and look, I know both defenses are going to come out and play well. I'm not saying both teams are going to score at will or either team is going to score at will, but I do really believe, Gary, that this game, it's going to be a higher scoring affair.
All right, let's go over to Bessemer and talk with our buddy John. John, what's going on?
Man.
Hey, man.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Hey, same to you, John.
Hey, man, has Alabama proved in their field goal kicking?
Well, I'll tell you this, John, they've worked at it. I know that, and Rodney knows. I mean, I think they've worked tirelessly to try to get more consistent with it. I've had some folks come in and look at what they're doing, and not just in terms of place kicking, but in their special teams overall. Bobby Williams, the special teams coordinator, has been, driving those guys. And I think, they'll be inside. The weather won't be an issue. I think they're going to kick the football down.
How does that ball carry in that dome?
I think it carries pretty well. Now, watching last night, and that was an NFL game with the Saints and the Falcons. You know what's odd? The NFL kicks off from the 35, college kicks off from the 30. But the ball really seems to carry well in there.
Well, it could help. I think that Foster does have a strong leg.
He does.
There's no doubt about it. And, I don't know exactly what's going on with his kickoffs, but if he could plant the ball in the end zone, I think that certainly would be key. And certainly you have to be consistent kicking the field goals.
I think the kicking game will be better. And it'll need to be better, because if it's not, that's going to be a big plus for LSU. All right, let's stay here in Tuscaloosa and talk to BT. Hey, Bill, what's going on?
Oh, not much, Gary. How about you?
Hey, BT, doing well.
How
What you
doing,
got?
Rodney? Doing
Hey,
fine,
BT.
Rodney, Gary.
Doing real well, BT.
Did y'all have a good Christmas?
Yes, we did. Go ahead, BT.
My question is, Gary and Rodney, about who are they got in mind on the office coordinator, or have you heard any?
Haven't heard much, Bill, and the reason for that is, and we talked about this some last week, Rodney and I did a lot on our radio show, in fact, is that I think right now Coach Saban wants the focus to be on this game. Jim McElwain's the offensive coordinator through this game before he leaves for the head coaching job at Colorado State. So I don't think you're going to hear too much, Bill, until after the game. I'm sure he maybe has talked to some people, But I don't think that's a major concern right now, is replacing Jim McElwain. I think they're wanting Jim McElwain to go out with a national championship, and then they'll worry about that.
Yeah, you know, the speculation, there hasn't even really been much speculation, BT, and I think that there's a possibility that maybe Nick Saban's waiting for the NFL season to end and kind of give him an opportunity to see who might be available maybe from the NFL. I know that we've talked about Mike Groh, who is currently an assistant now here at Alabama, being a possibility as well. But, you know, there's no question that Nick Saban will do a thorough job of finding the best guy.
Interesting tidbit on the Alabama coaching staff, a guy that a lot of people may not be familiar with, Billy Napier, who had been the offensive coordinator at Clemson, is, I guess, a quality control coach or something here at Alabama. Neil McCready from one of the Ole Miss websites reporting today that Ole Miss is interested in talking to Napier about their quarterback coaching job there. So he's a guy that's on that staff as well that has had offensive coordinating experience. All right, let's stay in Tuscaloosa and talk to Tim. Tim, what's going on? Tim, you there? All right, Tim wanted you to comment on both defenses. Well, Rodney, obviously, they're both very good.
Yeah.
We'll start with that, and you can go from there.
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what he was interested in knowing about both. That we've seen them; they're familiar with each other. It's going to be interesting to see how they attack. Now, I will say this: one thing that I do think works well for Alabama in this go-round is that Jarrett Lee was the starter last game, and I think Alabama had to prepare primarily for Jarrett Lee, although I do believe that Alabama expected they would see quite a bit of Jordan Jefferson. But now I think most of the preparation is going to go towards Jordan Jefferson. Gives Alabama more of an opportunity, Gary, to prepare for what Jordan Jefferson can do as a runner and his ability, and you know, maybe bottling it up, keeping him in the pocket, and also the option game that, you know, they did hurt Alabama some on the option game there in the first half, and they hurt them, if I remember correctly. That was an option that they ran in overtime to Michael Ford, who ran it down inside the 10-yard line. So, you know, it gives Alabama an opportunity to prepare more for that, I think.
All right, phone lines are open at 205-348-WVUA. More phone calls coming up, so you can call in now and get through. Also, we've got several emails that we're going to try to get to as well. You're watching Tider Insider Television. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Back here on Titv, only on WVUA TV, alongside Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Right back to your phone calls. Let's go to Gadsden and talk with Mike. Mike, welcome into the program.
Hey, guys. Good talking to y'all.
Thanks, Mike.
That first game, I think if we had gone for that first time we kicked the field goal, we should have went for it on fourth down. And long field goals against LSU are not wise, viewing our field goal situation. I think we should punt it and let our guys on defense take care of them, make them go 80 yards. I think this game, if we get in that situation, let's punt it, make them go 80 yards, and then maybe the referees will call a better game than they did. It seems like LSU gets all the calls, just like in that Georgia game where the guy handed the ball to ref before he scored the touchdown. You know, they get all the calls like that. So I'm thinking, like you said, we really outplayed them last game. We just got to look at stuff like punting and turning the field position around.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, again, we've talked about special teams, and obviously now, looking back on it, I mean, I'm sure Nick Saban would have done some things differently too. I think in his defense, he knew points were going to be a premium in that game. You could just tell, and I think, you know, had they made any of those field goals that they missed, and they didn't, but had they made any of them, they would have won the game.
Well, how many times do you have a 79-yard drive? Most of the time, I wonder what the percentage are. You have a 79-yard drive, doesn't end up in a touchdown.
Not often.
But guess what? That drive started at Alabama's 4-yard line.
And that was a big part of the game. They started so deep on their own field so many times that even after moving the football for a while, they weren't, you know, they drove the ball a lot. They got into the red zone some, but they never really got first and goal opportunities. You know, LSU would, let's give LSU some credit. Their defense around the 25-yard line got extremely stout. But, Mike, you're right. I mean, I'm sure they're going to look at that game film, and they might do a lot of things differently this time. That's the advantage of having played them once. Let's talk to Sam in Hackleburg. Sam, what's going on?
Hey, guys.
Hey, Sam.
Roll Tide.
Yes, sir.
No, guys, I just wanted to thank you for what y'all do. You know, the professionalism that y'all show and giving us people here in Marion County, you know, something to kind of get our mind off of what's going on here and on Alabama football. We appreciate it.
Well, Sam, it's our pleasure, and we appreciate you, because I can promise you we do the show because there is an audience that enjoys the show and wants to see it. If there were not people that were watching, we wouldn't be able to do it. So we appreciate you as much as you appreciate us, but it's always nice to hear kind words.
Yeah, great comments, Sam. We appreciate it.
All right, let's talk with LD, one of our good callers from over in Center. LD, what's going on?
Not much. I just like to call and wish y'all a Happy New Year.
Same to you.
And I agree with the first caller. The Tide just needs to play their game, and they'll come out a winner in that Sugar Bowl or in the championship game. And that let's see here. That
Getting tongue-tied, LD? Hey, listen. We agree with you. Alabama's good enough, even against a great team like LSU, that I don't think they have to worry as much about the opponent as they do about themselves. If Alabama plays well, they can beat anybody.
Well, that's kind of the Nick Saban philosophy, Gary. We don't really talk about or focus or concentrate on the opponent necessarily. They talk about what they have to do. They focus on what they have to do. And if you remember a couple of years ago when they went out and played Texas, a lot of the Texas media took that as somewhat of an arrogant type of an approach, but that's Alabama's approach. They focus on what they have to do, because if they feel like if they execute and do the things that they're supposed to do, they will be successful.
All right, thanks for all the phone calls. We had some emails, but we didn't. Maybe we can get to an email before we get back. We've had several emails, but thanks for all the phone calls tonight. We'll be back to wrap it up right after. All right, we're back to wrap up Tider Insider Television, and again, we had the great caller from Hackleburg who told us that he appreciates the show. We appreciate all of you. It's been another great year for the program, great year for the television station, great year for Tider Insider, and we really do appreciate everybody watching, and we're planning on coming to you in 2012. Real quickly, Tracy Horton Newberry, your fiance's prediction, Alabama 14, LSU 10. You like it?
Well, we've got one disagreement. I say it's going to be higher scoring.
All right, we'll have our predictions next week. Dinner time, we're headed to Buddy's Rib and Steak in Northport. Join us over there for some dinner about 7:15. For Rodney, I'm Gary. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.